this year has brought some of the coolest RCs, some real head scratchers, and a few things I haven't even shown you yet. Let's dig in. This year has been the year of mini saturation, and we've had big releases from pretty much every brand. From the very cool and very scale low-C Mini LMT to the complete opposite end of the spectrum with these fantastic looking low-C NASCARs, there has been a new mini release for pretty much anything you could possibly want to bash. Those releases have ranged from pretty awesome but fairly benign like this Quake Grom, whose most controversial feature is its vertical battery mount that can be a little bit tricky to add a new battery to that isn't the stock 2S, to probably the most controversial release this year, the Traxxas Mini XRT. It's not really the performance of the Mini XRT that was controversial, because this is probably the best handling and driving vehicle on Traxxas's new Mini platform. This thing has a pretty decently fast brushless motor and ESC, and even on this stock 2S battery, it's got plenty of speed and performance and handles pretty darn well. It's also very durable, as are all the cars on this platform. No, it's definitely not the performance, it's not the looks. It looks really, really nice. It's got that same XRT look that a lot of people love, and overall, it's a really cool little car. None of those things are the reason why this car was so controversial. The reason why this was so controversial is because in spite of the fact of this being the most expensive basher you can pretty much buy in the world, Traxxas decided to cut a big old hole in the windshield for cooling. This probably wouldn't be that big of a problem, except they didn't actually tell anybody they were doing it. Even the review samples they sent out didn't have this hole in it, the pictures online didn't show this hole, and people were just surprised when they got theirs. This hole was done because these electronics tend to overheat. They tend to overheat because it's probably geared too high. This cooling solution is fairly effective, but it definitely made quite a few people upset. Given that this is pretty much the most expensive mini basher you can buy, a lot of people would have preferred to see fans here instead of a hole cut here. Now, speaking of minis, check this thing out. This is the Nano Nation X100, and as far as I know, it's the world's smallest fully functional RC backhoe. This is a Kickstarter that I backed earlier in the year, and it comes in this really nice Pelican-style case. It's got a small PlayStation-style transmitter, takes a teeny tiny little battery, and both are chargeable via USB-C. And with those charged up, let's see what this little guy can actually do. Oh yeah, look at that. We've got boom up and down, got the stick up and down, bucket in and out, and we can turn the whole thing. And I think if we push this button here, that gives us control of the tracks, and they have full independent control. That is pretty awesome. These look like hydraulic cylinders, but they actually spin on these threaded rods, and that's what creates the linear motion. That's pretty cool. Of course, to really test this thing out, we need something to dig. With my kit, I got this bag of stuff called Nano Earth, which is granulated cork. This is more of a desk toy, and they don't really want you using it in dirt, which makes sense because it would really bind up those functions pretty easily. But let's see what we can do with this simulated giant pile of dirt. Go in for a scoop. Don't laugh, this is my first time doing this. All right, we got some. Let's see if we can't load it up in the Quake Grom. There we go, first try. All right, yeah guys, this little X100 is a lot of fun. It definitely takes some practice and some skill, but I'm getting better at it, and I think eventually I could get the bed of this Quake Grom filled up. And speaking of the Quake Grom, this is actually my favorite mini right now. It is an awesome little truck and has a lot going for it. It's on the latest version of the Grom platform, which means it's easy to work on and very, very tough. This is probably the best clipless body that Arrma has put out. It doesn't get jammed up and it's very easy to take on and off. I love these Chevron style tires, and even though they don't have foams in them, these work really, really well. And this chassis design is probably the pinnacle of strength for a mini. It integrates the front tower, the rear tower, and wheelie bar, which has its own suspension, by the way, as well as these two side rails, and creates a tub arrangement which is incredibly strong, and I don't think I've seen anybody break one of these. And though this one's been upgraded, even in stock form, they're pretty fun. Overall, I think if you want to buy a mini, the Quake Grom or the Gorgon Grom is the one to get. But the Grom isn't the only Quake we've seen recently, and this 1/10 scale two-wheel drive is really awesome too. Between its big beefy tires, easy to remove body, and a chassis platform that's both easy to work on and has really good handling, this is probably the best two-wheel drive monster truck you can buy today. While two-wheel drive isn't for everyone, it definitely has its charms. It takes a bit more skill, especially with a high-power two-wheel drive vehicle like this, to get things right. But when you do, it really does feel good. You definitely don't have as much air control as you do with a four-wheel drive vehicle, but this thing is plenty durable and is a great option for building that two-wheel drive skill, because when you get things wrong, which will happen pretty often, you don't have to suffer too much by breaking a lot of parts. This thing can handle some good jumps, and whereas it doesn't have the best air control, again, because you're only driving two of those wheels, it definitely, again, rewards you when you get the jump right, which we didn't quite get there, by making you feel good about the skills that you've built. And again, it's just a lot of fun. But it's not all sunshine and roses with this 1/10 scale two-wheel drive ARMA platform. The battery compartment, while fairly easy to access, does have some limitations to it. It'll fit most regular size batteries pretty well, but without modifying the lid, sometimes this can be difficult to close, and there isn't a lot of room for the wiring. Some people have also had problems with these 223S brushless systems, and often with cheaper, lower quality or old batteries, they tend to have an issue where LVC or low voltage cutoff kicks in earlier than it should. I've personally not had any problems with high quality batteries, but these 223S ESCs definitely do have higher sensitivity to low voltage. Whether you want to blame the ESC or the battery for that problem is subjective, and I think both points of view are valid. Regardless, as you saw with the 223S system in it, this Quake is super durable and can really fly. Now, speaking of flying, I'm really excited to check out this next thing from Flywing. This is the latest V3 version of their FW450 3D helicopter, and this could be the coolest 3D stunt helicopter you can get, because unlike most helicopters this size that are really unwieldy, this one has a quick detach tail. It's got a 3-pin connector here and a little notch that a tab goes into. So on the field, you can just plug this in and you're ready to go. They even have this accessory quick detach rotor head so the blades can come off really, really quickly. Though the stock rotor head just attaches the blades with one screw each, so it's really not that difficult. But its real party piece is this 3rd generation Ace flight controller, which is supposed to be a lot more stable and allow better stunts than previous versions. Hiding under the awesome high-vis orange fuselage is an all carbon fiber frame, and the battery is easy to remove by just unclipping this front door and sliding the whole tray out. Included is a 5,000 mAh 4S battery, and to charge that up, Flywing gives us this 3-amp 4S unit that can both charge and do storage charging. This looks like a pretty decent device, but we're not going to use this. Instead, we're going to use the best charger you can buy right now, the Genzace IMARS D300 Plus. This is the latest version of their D300 and comes with Bluetooth so you can connect it to your phone. And between the charger, which can do 300 watts total between its 2 different 6S channels, the accessory pack, which includes adapters for a lot of the different kinds of batteries you would need to charge, and a $129 price tag, this is a really, really good deal. But I'm going to make the deal even better. I'm going to give not 1, but 2 of these away. I'll tell you more about how to win later, but for now, we're just going to plug this thing in. It's already got an XT60, so that's really easy. Go into the channel. We see all of our cell voltages here, which is a very nice diagnostic feature. It automatically detects the 4S LiPo. We're going to set the target current to 5 amps because that's what the battery is. And off it goes. While that's charging, we can connect to it via Bluetooth, and that allows us to do pretty much everything we can do on the charger on our phone. That's a really handy new feature that makes this an even more useful tool than it was before. And having the right tools is critical in this hobby for having the most fun and being the least frustrated. That starts with a good set of bits, and these MIP Gen 2 bits are my favorite this year. The ring identifier on them makes them easier to find. The laser etched labels are really nice, but most importantly, these are very high quality tools that are precision cut and fit your screws perfectly. There is nothing worse than a sloppy fit, and using cheap tools is a great way to strip out screws and waste a bunch of your time. I've also been using their speed handle, which works really, really well. And of course, my go-to power tool is this No Cry. Unfortunately, these aren't available anymore. In the future, we're going to do a video comparing the best current options. Let me know down in the comments what you're currently using. You're going to want to comment anyway. To go along with those, I just have a couple of these cross wrenches. These come with RC cars, or you can get them cheaply on Amazon. They work for a lot of different functions. I also use these aluminum shock pliers all the time. Again, these are just a cheap Amazon pair. They're great because they don't mar shock shafts, and they give you a nice big pair of pliers here for dealing with the shock caps and shock lowers without scratching those up too. This particular pair has a ball end tool as well. I definitely recommend getting a pair with those, but in my experience, any cheap pair will work just fine. A good set of flush cutters are really imperative. The cheap ones work okay, but these CHP ones that are made in Italy are definitely high quality. I also recommend getting some sort of dental pick set. This one's getting pretty messed up, but they are great for getting seals out as well as pulling apart differentials. This is a must-have tool if you're going to be doing RC maintenance and repair. For soldering connectors, I really like this helper board. You can find this on Amazon. Just search for RC solder connector. I'm currently soldering using this Ikeson T320 soldering station. It allows you to solder with genuine JBC tips. It's 200 watts and works really, really well. And to go along with that, I recommend genuine Kester 6337 lead-based solder. High quality solder isn't cheap, but it lasts a really long time and it makes soldering so much easier. Now, obviously, there are a million other tools out there, but this is the basic set I recommend currently, and I think it works really, really well for for most use cases. Of course, in this hobby, the tool you're going to have in your hand the most often is the transmitter, and when the RTR transmitter just doesn't do it anymore, there are some pretty cool options. And my two favorites right now are the Radiomaster MT12 and the FlySky G11P. While neither one of these came out recently, they're both really good options depending on what you want to do. This MT12 is the most feature-rich transmitter you can buy, and that's both a blessing and a curse. It can do literally whatever you want it to, but its built-in OpenTX operating system can be pretty complicated and daunting, and might be more than a lot of people need, which is why this FlySky G11P is my current go-to daily driver. It's got a nice bright screen with a decent interface, lots of buttons, switches, knobs, and dials, and most importantly for me, it has a first-party cell phone mount, which is really important if you're wanting to record. The transmitter uses these ANT protocol receivers, which are pretty inexpensive, and in the case of this FSR4P, has a built-in antenna and is very compact. They're also PPX4 water resistant and have decent range. For this year, either one of these is a fantastic upgrade choice, though I'd probably go for the G11P for most people. Of course, being a helicopter, the Flywing FW450L uses a completely different style of transmitter with 2 sticks and a bunch of switches. Speaking of which, this battery is fully charged, so let's get it installed and see if the new flight controller on this beautiful orange helicopter can keep this idiot from crashing it. All right, now I'm a complete amateur at this, and it's pretty windy out, so if I end up crashing this thing, it's definitely going to be my fault, but let's see what we can do. Everything's in the softest mode possible, the automatic mode. Get the rotor going, and let's take off. We're in the air. I can see the tail twitching a little bit just because of how windy it is out. It's got a little bit of drift in the wind, but yeah, it's holding itself still pretty well. Get her a little closer here so we can see it. Oh, it definitely sounds awesome. Those big rotor blades sound so cool. It sounds like a full-size helicopter, and it really is a neat experience, but I definitely want to fly up higher. Supposedly, if we put it into acro mode and go up above 30 feet, we can actually go upside down with it. So I'm going to put it in acro mode now. Okay, it's in acro mode. It actually smoothed out quite a bit. Now, are we above 30 feet? And we are upside down. Can you guys see that? Oh my gosh, that's awesome. The controls, of course, are reversed now, but that's really, really stable upside down. And we can flip right side up again. And yeah, that is very, very stable. Far more stable than I was expecting it to be. That's so cool. I think we can just do constant rolls too. Yup. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That is so awesome, so stable. Look at that. All right, let's get upside down again. And now with it upside down, everything, like I said, is reversed. So back is forward, left is right. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to control, but it's certainly easier than trying to do it on your own. And this Ace flight controller seems to be working pretty well. Let's get her flipped back over again. Very, very nice. All right, let's get her up a little bit higher. I think we can do it to the front and to the back as well. Let's go forward. Oh man, that really makes you feel like a skilled pilot when you're not. Look at that, it sounds awesome too. That's really cool, guys. I'm actually really, really impressed with that. So far, guys, this thing feels really fun. It feels very stable, very flyable, very smooth, gentle flying. Overall, I think this thing is pretty darn awesome. It feels very capable, especially to my complete amateur skills. And yeah, this thing's a lot of fun. Let's see if we can land it without crashing it. Bring it back over to this concrete here. A little less stable with it in attitude mode, but it's not too bad still. And we should be able to just bring it straight down to the ground. Here we go, landing, and shut her down. Well, that went a lot better than I expected it to. This thing's actually very easy to fly. I had no issues with it whatsoever. And coming from a Surface RC basher, flying something like this definitely is interesting. Now, speaking of interesting things, this FMS FMT10 is probably the most unique vehicle we saw this year. From its unique clipless body system and its composite aluminum plastic chassis to the design of its shock mounting pins and these really interesting clips that hold in the inner hinge pins, this FMT10 definitely had a lot of new things going for it. However, it was held back a little bit by a pretty strange mod 0.9 pinion and spur gear choice, and a motor mount design that didn't really leave a lot of room for upgrading. Fortunately, it did come with a really nice set of electronics, including this Hobbywing ESC and even a brushless servo. Speaking of electronics, Castle's really been making some moves with their Cobra line of ESCs. That includes this Cobra 8, Cobra 10, Cobra 5, Cobra 5 HV, their Ace drag racing and speedrunning ESCs, and some really cool marine applications. These things have 32-bit internal processors, a ton of logging, very good power, come with some really nice mounting options, and are overall some of the best ESCs you can get in the market today, though they are fairly expensive. To power those ESCs, my same recommendation stands from last year. SMC makes the best value batteries you can buy right now. They're a US-based company and they stand behind their products. Of course, there are cheaper brands you can buy, but I think it's always a crapshoot, and when you're dealing with things like safety of your house and your family, I think getting high-quality batteries is worthwhile. This past year, I've been spending a lot of time testing out Savox servos, and I've actually been very impressed with them. Again, there are a lot of servo choices out there, and Savox servos certainly aren't the cheapest, but of all the ones I've purchased, I haven't broken a single one yet, and I push these things pretty hard. Again, obviously there are a lot of choices out there, but these are definitely really good servos, and their waterproofing seems to be better than most other brands, which is important if you're going to be bashing in the wet. And since we're talking about electronics, a lot of people ask me what GPS I use. I use this SkyRC module. You can get these on Amazon. They are very reliable, and as you can see, they're pretty durable. This one actually fell apart on the bottom. I glued it back together and kept going. This thing's been through a lot of abuse and still works perfectly. Of course, if modern electronics aren't your thing, there's always Nitro, and there are still some good options out there, including this Revo 3.3, which I think is the best option. Obviously, this is an old platform. It's been around a long time, but especially if you're new to Nitro, this is probably the easiest way to get into it. Between the easy start system for the motor and all the included accessories, it really does make Nitro as easy as it can be, at least today. With that being said, every platform has its weak points, and before we take this thing for a rip, we need to fix one of the biggest ones on the original Revo. As you can see, one of my axle shafts fell out, and that's because the only thing locating the toe in on these rear hubs are these little tiny rods. They tend to get messed up in crashes, which is what happened here. Fortunately, the fix is pretty simple and inexpensive with this RPM True Track conversion, which gets rid of all that nonsense. Of course, easy is a pretty relative term, as these older cars are always going to be a bit harder to work on than something fully modern. But even with that, this job is relatively straightforward. Now we just pull these pins out. By the way, these are Knipex mini pliers wrench. They're 86125 model number, and they're really handy for working on these little cars. And now we can just pull these whole assemblies off and switch all the hardware from the old setup to the new setup. As you can see, we now use a pin on the bottom arm to set the toe rather than this really weak link design. Let me just get this other one done, and now we can get these installed back on the truck, just like that. And this upgrade is going to make this thing a lot stronger and a lot more reliable. But of course, you can't do an upgrade without testing it out. And I'm not going to give up the opportunity to make some nitro noise and smoke, so let's take this thing for a quick rip. I know you guys have seen me run Nitro before, but it just is an awesome experience every single time we do it. Obviously, electric is going to be more practical, but there is no replacement for the noise and the smell of Nitro. It's just an absolute blast, and I use every excuse I can to bring this thing out and have some fun with it. It is an absolutely awesome time. If you've never tried Nitro before, I definitely recommend it. Obviously, it's not going to be for everyone, and it's not for every time, but it's for me right now, and I'm having an absolute blast with this Revo, and the upgrades seem to be working really well. Now, before we talk about my favorite basher this year, let's talk about trail bashing. This is the Yikong 41011, and it is incredible value for money, especially right now being on sale for $150. If you've never trail bashed before, this is a perfect time to try it out, because for the price, this thing's pretty hard to beat. I've got a brushless system in here right now, but out of the box, it comes with a perfectly competent brush system and a decent receiver and transmitter. It's got a nice 2-speed transmission, which is essential for real trail bashing, and it comes with portal axles with these really neat, convenient manual lockers. This means you can have standard differential action for most bashing, but then you can just reach down and lock it up and get full locked bashing for that really hard terrain. I personally find trail bashing to be really relaxing, and if you haven't tried it yet, at $150, again, this thing's pretty hard to beat. You might want to pick one up and give it a try. Speaking of giving things a try, if you're new into bashing or you're just getting someone else into bashing, I think the Granite 223S is probably a fantastic option for a first car. It comes with a pretty decent clipless system, and under the hood is a very mature platform with a lot of updates over the years that make it very strong, very fast, and very fun. Of course, just like with the Quake, this does have the 223S 2-in-1 system in it, and if that turns you off, which is understandable, there is another really great option. The Relarlo Omni Terminator was updated at the beginning of this year for more strength and reliability, and this is a fantastic car. It comes brushless out of the box, includes a battery and charger, and everything else you need to get started, and while it is going to be harder to work on than something like the Granite, it's not that bad, and especially this carbon version comes with a lot of really nice features. features. Overall, you could definitely do a lot worse than an Omni Terminator for a first car. Now, before I tell you what the best basher is right now, we need to talk about what the coolest Traxxas is right now. Traxxas is kind of in a league of their own with pricing, but I don't think it's this RS200. I still think it's the Funko. For being rear-wheel drive, with having that TSM and those disc brakes, it really doesn't feel like a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It tends to push straight under acceleration, which makes sense as we don't have those front wheels being driven, and they're pretty smooth, so we're not going to get great traction with them. But overall, this thing kind of doesn't feel like a two-wheel drive vehicle. But even with it being big, heavy, and awesome, that's still not my pick for best basher right now, and surprisingly, neither is this V6 Kraton EXB. This EXB is absolutely amazing, and if you want a safe, awesome basher, this probably is what you should choose. It comes with all the amazing V6 updates, as well as some really nice 7075 aluminum parts, some of which have been upgraded here. However, it still includes the main weakness of this platform, and that's these arms and how they attach to the chassis. And that means while this is a very strong platform, and again, a safe bet for an awesome basher, it still gets slightly edged out. Before I show you what does edge it out, if you want to win not one, not three, but two iMARS D300 Plus chargers, it's really easy to enter. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell to get notified of future videos and posts. That's really important so you can find out if you win. Hit the thumbs up button, and if you like this video, give it some hype points. Once you've done that, check this out. This is the Team Corrali Kagama Limited, and I think this is the coolest car that's come out. Between this awesome looking and very durable body, beautiful gold 7075 aluminum chassis bits, the venerable and reliable Torox 185 ESC, and this awesome looking powerful motor, if you can manage to get your hands on one of these, it's definitely an amazing bashing experience. Of course, given that they are a limited release, you probably can't get your hands on one, so if you just want a safe bet for an awesome basher, one of these V6 Arma Notorious or Kratons is definitely the way to go. They're not perfect, but they are very, very good, and I think that for most people, they're your best bet right now. They are reasonably priced, have a ton of great features, and are overall just the best bet. Now, speaking of best bets, make sure you get subscribed, leave a comment to enter the giveaway, and check out one of these videos.